Got locked in now, laser focus.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Locked In. I'm Sam Rodriguez. Them two together in pick and roll situations are unstoppable, and they're just gonna keep getting better.
I'm Megan Holden. It's a cheat code. XX circle or something. That's what they're doing.
And we are over here covering the latest and hottest NBA and NFL news. So,
okay, look, we're not gonna go there.
Today we have a good show for you guys. We have a guest coming on. Plus, we're going to be speaking about the best NBA young duo, the best wide receiver in the NFL, and then a couple of quick thoughts on the NBA's return and how we feel about it.
It's a hot take right there.
Yeah,
it's a very hot take for NBA under the radar news. Sam?
All right. So, the Warriors are still in pursuit of having dreams of getting Giannis Antetokounmpo. They're planning on offering a package including Draymond Green and a couple of first-round picks for the future. Then you got DeMar DeRozan's leaving the Spurs in the free agency, he said this is going to be his last year over there. He wants to test the market. And you have teams like the Knicks looking at him. Then you got Bol. They're allowing him to reclaim as a rookie again next season, just like Ben Simmons. Because he didn't play. They said he didn't play any games regular season, but only into the bubble. Then you got the Rockets saying they're trying to clear up some cap space to sign Blake Griffin next offseason. Lastly, an anonymous NBA analysis says that he believes Paul George and Chris Paul will join the Lakers when they both hit the free agency market.
I knew you were going to bring this up.
I don't want Paul George, but I don't think he'd fit in with LeBron and AD. I can see Chris Paul fitting in.
So for the NFL under the radar news this week, Patriots have an NFL high player option out. On a positive note, David Andrews, who sat out last season because of blood clots in his lungs, says that he made a decision that he is going to play a season, which is, I feel like, a little risky, but I could see that he really wants to play a game. I'm just a little scared for him.
Yeah, that is kind of risky, considering that's what Chris Bosh had, the blood clots, and he tried coming back, and then he had to stop right away.
It's his decision, but I wish him the best. And then for an AB segment of for Locked In, so AB got his wish where he asked NFL to wrap up the investigation. He got served an 8-game suspension for some of the things that happened off the field. So for 8-game suspension, it starts week 1 no matter what, but he's still pending another case which can add to his suspension. Lamar Jackson pushing for the Ravens to sign him, and John Harbaugh said he can understand, but it's up to the GM. And Seattle also is maybe a consideration. He worked out with Russell Wilson in the offseason. We'll see what happens. I think teams want to get a better idea of what's going on with him and his situation first.
Yeah, I can see him in Seattle more than Baltimore because Russell Wilson can throw to him. Lamar Jackson still.
Okay, look, we're not gonna go there. We know. I told you Lamar Jackson can throw. All right, and he got his cousin.
He's not a Russell Wilson throwing the ball.
No, but he's still pretty good. Like, come on, he's no scrub. And today we have a special guest from Roxbury, Boston, Massachusetts, a Durfee High School girls basketball head coach, a proud father, and an activist, Marcel Smith.
Hey, you guys. How you doing?
Thank you for coming on the show today. We appreciate it. How you been?
Absolutely. I'm good in this crazy climate. I'm fine. Everybody's good, so everybody's healthy.
So what we do for every guest on our show, we ask a trivia question for our guests and for our audience. So Sam, what do you have today?
All right, so we're going to go a basketball trivia question here. Which of these 20th century NBA players spent 3 years in the MLB before entering the NBA? Sam Perkins, Danny Ainge, and Carmelo Anthony.
Oh, that's easy. Danny Ainge.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. I got to start coming up with harder ones.
We know about our guys here. Now, by the way, you played for Blue Jays, right?
Yep.
I was when he was in college. Now, the NBA best young duo. I think me and Marcel's gonna agree here. So I'm gonna let Sam go first.
A lot of great young duos in the league right now. The league's looking promising for the future, but I'm gonna have to go with the Hawks here with Trae Young and John Collins.
Okay, go ahead. Explain yourself.
Last year, Trae Young was second in rookie rating, but Luka had a phenomenal season. If Trae Young would have did that all season, not just towards the second half, he would have had it. He averaged 19.1 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, and 8.1 assists his rookie year. That's like decent for a rookie, but he was putting up like 36-point games, 40-point games. He was showing he has that Steph Curry range from basically anywhere. He could hit up shots, fadeaways, everything. And then you have John Collins, who's overlooked a lot because his rookie season, he wasn't amazing. But his second season, he came back averaging 19.5 points per game, 9.8 rebounds, and 2 assists. them two together in pick and roll situations are unstoppable, and they're just going to keep getting better because they're both 21 and 22. They're going to have the time. If the Hawks can build pieces around them, put in like a Danny Green or someone like role players around them, not even superstars, because Trae Young is going to be a superstar. They'll have a good chance at competing in the East, maybe even a couple years from now, 3-4 years, becoming that number 1 seed over there.
A hot take right there.
Yeah,
I mean,
very.
yeah, it's a very hot take. I mean, you bring up points, but there's more to the game. I mean, Trae defensively is kind of similar. Also, like, you can also make this point to Luka. He's a one-way player right now. So, and then you also have John Collins, who's not as proven, as you mentioned, as other players. So now, if we're talking about NBA young duos, what come to my mind, you know, you got obviously you got the Philadelphia with Ben Simmons, and you got Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, and then you have in Denver, you got Joe Fick, and you got Jamal Murray, and then you got Dallas, you got Luka, and you got Kristaps Porzingis, and then you got Pelicans, you got Zion Ingram, and I say all that because I'm gonna lead to the best right now, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Know why? Because they're two-way players. They're actually probably better defensively than probably the rest of the duos. I would say on that list. And offensively, they can go par for par. Now, and they also, what's different about them versus the other duos in the league, they had to compete with other stars to get their minutes. They nothing was given to them. You know what I mean? They weren't just in there and given the ball. They had to compete for their spot. And when they had injuries, they stepped up and brought their teams all the way to 7 games against your LeBron in the finals and dunked on his head. Yes, I'm gonna bring that up again. Okay, but still, like, it's impressive if you're talking about 2 rookies. And then I know Brown's been consistent for the last 2 seasons. He gets overlooked a lot. He's actually a really good field goal percentage. So he's pretty good on the floor. He's becoming respectable from the 3-point line. And then he's also one of the best defenders on the Celtics. And then you have Tatum, who's also one of the best defenders on the Celtics, who we see can put up 30, 40 points per game. He's a little bit more inconsistent, but after All-Star break, which he mentioned, he got like kind of a weight lift off his shoulders. He's been going off. Besides that, game that we're not going to mention that we just saw when the NBA returned. But that's because his haircut. Okay, that had nothing to do with him. It was all the cut. So, I mean, as far as you got the two-way players, they know how to impact winning. Luka, and we saw Luka and Kristaps Porzingis go off. The Mavericks still lost. Tatum and Brown go off. The Boston Celtics win. So they impact winning. They're both two-way players, and nothing was given to them. They had to compete with other stars, and I feel like their potential is through the roof, and I feel like they're the best younger duo in the league. And they'll probably be at the first to get the championship.
You were right. We're going to be similar. I will say, I mean, you wrapped up everything with Brown and Tatum. The point that they earned it is a great point, because some of these guys just come into the NBA, Zion, and they're just anointed. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of basketball. Zion, to me, is the same thing as the guy Larry Johnson. They used to call him Grandmama. Like, it's the same thing. I love Larry Johnson. I'm a UNLV guy. But he didn't walk right in the door and was anointed as the next thing. This happens to these kids a lot. Mm-hmm. Tatum and Brown, they earned it. Brown, was covering LeBron day one out the gate. You know what I mean? And that was his assignment. You got to cover arguably one of the best players of the last, generation or so. I will say, though, the sheer size down in Philly, they have to be considered. There's not too many real big men in the NBA, and for half a game can be a big man before he wants to be a two guard. And Ben Simmons, 6'9" point guard. It's just you got to consider those guys. If Simmons could ever get shooting, even half decent, a quarter decent, he's going to be a real threat. And I'm not a big Ben Simmons guy at all. Yeah. Tall lefty point guards that don't really do it for me if their name's not Jalen Rose. I'd say it's Boston, Philly. That Atlanta take is wild. It's wild take. Trae only plays one side of basketball, and he plays one side. But yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with any. Luckily for the NBA, they do have a good young nucleus, and you can't go wrong with any of these guys. If you got a duo, you put a couple veterans around them, and you're in business.
Well, 2 things. One, you bring up a good point that, guys just come into the league and they label, superstars, or they're going to be a next star. We've seen it with Wiggins a couple seasons ago. And Zion, that's why I don't feel comfortable giving it to Zion or Ja in Memphis, because I feel like they're too young and they're too unproven. Especially Zion, who was injured most of the season and only played probably 15 games. I gotta give it, but when it comes to 76ers, the reason why I put the Celtics over them, because I feel like you need pieces that complement each other, and I feel like I'm not sure how well Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid don't complement each other offensively, because they're both limited and restricted.
Correct.
Especially Simmons, when how you can see defensively, they're great pair. Ben Simmons is one of the best defenders, and Joel is one of the best bigs in the league. But as far as offensively, I feel like they're very restricted, and also you got to consider Joel's health, and you also got to consider the fact they haven't really done much in the playoffs together. They haven't really got past the point. They seem like they're still trying to figure it out. Honestly, my hot take is I don't see the duo lasting. I think Joel will get traded soon, because I think they need to have a star shooter next to Ben Simmons, because I feel like it's not going to work.
They need to get Simmons, a Devin Booker type.
Yep.
Someone like that, Klay Thompson type.
Maybe Beal. Beal's been on there's been a lot of talks about Levine. Levine's been on talks about trade market, so we'll see. It'll be interesting. I think Joel's going to be used as bait, though. That's the biggest piece. The best wide receiver in the NFL, we see them going at each other on Twitter all the time about it. So who do you guys have for your best wide receiver?
Julian Edelman, man. Come on.
Okay.
Edelman, until he can't do it anymore, Edelman's the best wide receiver. Actually, I'm kind of kidding, but he's my favorite. He's my favorite. I mean, it's tough to overshadow guys like Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill, Julio and those guys. But I mean, Julian's gonna catch 100 balls from anyone. You could have, all three of us out there throwing balls to Julian. He's gonna get open. He's gonna catch passes. That's my guy. What do you guys have to say?
Hey, that's. I know he's tough. He's tough. He can get hit and still have the ball in his hands. I feel like people are knocking him just because he played with Brady. I feel like he's the best slot wide receiver. But as far as best wide receiver, I gotta give it to Michael Thomas.
Ooh.
Okay, I gotta give him credit. I know people are gonna bring up Drew Brees, you know what I mean? But he even showed out last season when he was to take Bridgewater for 5 games. So I get each debate. I know Julio is explosive. I know Hopkins had great hands and played with, Brock Osweiler, and he still showed out and stuff like that. I know Devontae Adams, great route runner. But I feel like Michael Thomas has the best hands in the NFL. There's a reason. I get he has the most targets, but there's a reason why he gets those targets, because he knows how to get open. He's a smooth route runner. But also, when it comes his way, he catches about 70%, 80% of the balls. He led the league this year with 149 receptions. He's first in targets, and he's also first in yards per game. He has pretty good yards after the catch capability too. He's actually above Julio, Hopkins, and Adams. He only had 9 drops in the last 2 seasons. And with Bridgewater, he was 42 catches, 52 attempts. He's only one of 3 wide receivers, and he did it 3 times to record 75% of completions on 50% of receptions. So I mean, I get the point that he's with Drew Brees, but you still have to catch the ball. You still gotta do your job when the ball's in your hands, and he does it. And he showed he can do it without Drew Brees too. He's putting up numbers. He was top in the NFL last season. I get that he's the only really option Saints have, and we can see what it looks like with Sanders there now. But I feel like there's a reason. I mean, I feel like you can't really punish a player just being so talented.
I never understood the take of who the guy had, like Breeze and Thomas, because I mean Jerry Rice had Montana and Steve Young. The mix, it's a senseless argument. The kid's good. He can play. Those stats are ridiculous. Actually, it's like a video game.
Yeah, it's a cheat code. XX circle something. That's what they're doing.
All right, so Michael Thomas last season was the best wide receiver in the league. That's hands down. He was breaking records left and right. Doesn't matter who he had at quarterback. He was doing it himself. They can throw the ball to him, but he has to make the separation. He has to catch it. He has to get through and take the hits. But I got to go with Julio. I got to go with Julio.
I knew it was coming. Okay. I can respect it. Tell me why.
Over the past 7 seasons, he's the yards per route king. All right? With 50-plus targets over the past 7, he's ranked 1st, 4th, 1st, 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 5th. Julio, he has Matty Ice, who is a very inconsistent quarterback. He's almost throwing as many interceptions as he does touchdowns. But he can do it. But give him Julio Drew Brees. I think a quarterback like Drew Brees for Julio would give him a phenomenal season that we've never seen. He's just overall, he can catch better. He can catch in traffic. Like, he's made some phenomenal plays we've seen. And he has a 63% catch rate. He just, I don't know. I love him. He's my guy. Julio Jones, I will always take him in fantasy. I have faith in him. He will get the yards even with a lower ranked quarterback. He'll do all he has to do to get the wins. I believe he's better overall.
Hey, shoot your shot, Sam. I mean, I'm not going to stop you. We can at Julio on this later, but I'm going to say you talk about hands, but there's no better hands in the game than Michael Thomas. I mean, his catch percentage is better than Julio's. His yards per carry is lower, but that's because Julio is more of a deep wide receiver, where you see Thomas does more slants. Thomas is better in space, and also I feel like Thomas is a little bit smoother route runner, and he's better in the end zone. So I mean, I get that he's he makes the bigger plays, and he's great athletically, and he is one of the top wide receivers. But I still gotta give it to Thomas, because if I'm talking about better hands, better bigger threat, I'm talking about better route runner. That's why I want him wide receiver. Now that he doesn't have to be that deep threat, we're gonna see if his yards start to decline or what's gonna happen. Who's gonna be the number 1 and 2? Sanders is the other option, so that can't really be an excuse. As people say, Julio has, he had Ridley around him. He had Tony Gonzalez before. So I think that excuse is going out the window. We're really going to see this year. We're going to recap real quick. Give our thoughts of how you guys feel about the NBA return. I'm actually pleased with how it's going. I didn't think it'd go as smoothly as they're actually doing it right now. Some of the teams is still going to take some time to get back into it. And plus, you got teams like the Clippers who are still trying to get that mesh together after benching Kawhi basically half the season for some load management. I knew you were going to bring that up. I mean, you got to bring it up. They kept him on the bench for most of the time, and that's chemistry they could be building. That team should be dominant right now. They have the best bench in the NBA. Their starting lineup's ridiculous. They should be dominant, but they don't have the chemistry yet. So these 8 games are going to be crucial to them.
I'll talk about the style of play. I actually like how, the guys got right back after it. A couple guys look rusty, but for the most part, it looks like they never skipped a beat. They're playing hard. It's got to be strange competing with no crowd for the most part. But looks like playoff basketball to me. It looks like these guys are getting right after it. They took good care of themselves. No one looks noticeably out of shape. I'm enjoying it. People seem like they're in good shape. The only thing is there is some rust there, and it was to be expected. Some things that stuck out to me. Bucks are not invincible. You know what I mean? We see in Houston, we saw, them get close to the Celtics. A big piece is like when Giannis is out, how that team's going to respond when he's on the bench. But they can compete against anyone still. It's still going to be down the wire. But some teams to take seriously, I think, is going to be Miami, Thunder, Houston, and Toronto. Especially Toronto. You've been seeing that this is not a fluke. It was not just about Kawhi. And they're right there I think they should be mentioned more about the finals. The 8th seed is going to be up for grabs. I think it's going to be between the Spurs, Portland, and Memphis. I think maybe the Spurs got a little bit of favor because they got the experience. Portland, I'm not sure how far Dame can carry them. They still need to work on their bench. And the defense is not that great. And Memphis, you can tell they're young. They have great potential, but you can expect some rookie mistakes. Houston reminds me of like the Patriots of 2010, 2012, where it's great offense. You're going to have high-scoring games. But it's like, bend, but don't break defense. Yeah. And we saw that. But I feel like when they get against other teams that, that have great defenses like the Bucks, but also have those superstars that can go, tick for tack with the Harden and Westbrook, like the Lakers or the Clippers, I think they might be getting some trouble. The refs are still the refs. They picked up right where they left off. Yeah. Magic, I think, can pull up some upsets. We've seen that, Jonathan Isaac, they get injured. But it seems like they have great young potential pieces. Fultz has come back into his own. Watch out for the Pacers. TJ Warren showed out. He showed out. Sabonis, you thought that was going to be a big hit, but he stepped up. And Oladipo's going to be playing. I think they're also a sleeper team in the East. He's been a scorer since school. No surprise. I wasn't surprised. And Victor, when Oladipo's out there, that's just a whole different squad. So They are a huge threat in the East. I think they get slept on a lot, but you got to watch it back because they could end up in the finals. You never know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they could.
Especially under these strange circumstances.
Any player or any team that's like you're like, wow. Like,
To be honest, and I'm not necessarily this guy. More of a Patriots fan than a Celtics fan. I'm a maniacal Patriots fan, but I like the Celtics. I like how they play basketball. As a basketball purist, I like the way they play the game. They play the game right. They share the ball for the most part. The ball's in the hands of the right person, and luckily for them, they have four. They have four guys that you can trust with the basketball when it's supposed to be in their hands. I'm enjoying watching them. I always try to catch Washington Wizards games. My guy Shabazz Napier, Mission Hill, Roxbury. I try to catch his games a lot.
On that Celtics, how are they gonna play when Gordon Hayward leaves for his wife's maternity?
We're used to this though.
You think Tatum's gonna step up?
I feel like I want to see Jaylen Brown start getting the same mechanisms that Tatum right now, because you're seeing like he can just be just as good a star on both sides of the ball, and I feel like he's a little bit more consistent. But I want him to get the same energy a little bit that Tatum has been getting. No disrespect to Tatum, he's great.
Mm-hmm.
But I want Jaylen Brown to get more recognition. I think consistency is going to be huge if they can. That's the biggest difference. This is how consistent can these young players be. I think the Celtics are used to having guys missing, so they'll be okay. But it all depends on consistency of Tatum and Brown, with or without Hayward going to the playoffs.
I agree completely. They played without him before, and they were younger then, so it'll be fun.
I want to talk to you more about myself, because I know you know the game. I know your love for the game. First, I want to ask you, how were you first introduced to it?
About me, I'm from the inner city. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, Roxbury. And I began as like a martial arts and gymnastics. I was actually like a gymnast, went to gymnastics school, things like that, was heavily into the martial arts. And I just have friends who, just loved basketball, and it kind of taught me a game. In particular, this one guy, Larry Brown, he taught me how to, we would take a wire hanger, fold it, we'd ball up our socks and play like that. And my room in Boston would be packed, because at that time, Boston was a little gritty, and I'm raised by my grandparents. They're like, you're not necessarily going outside of the park. So all my friends we literally have full court games in my room on a wire hanger and sock. That's how I learned how to play the game, and I just fell in love with it. And I still love martial arts and gymnastics, but basketball has taken me places that I never would have imagined. I've met people that I never would have even considered meeting. It's all through the game of basketball. So, I love it. As you see, I know you see me on social media. It's an every day of my life, I'm doing something revolved around the game of basketball.
I remember when I was little, I had the hamper. You used the socks and the hamper until it broke something, and my mom was trying to hold down. Or the basket, you got the basket, nail it to the post outside. Yeah.
Everything. Yeah. I've played on crates.
Yeah.
Inner tube. What's the the bicycle? The not the inner tube, but the rim. The rim.
Yeah,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've played in every type of basketball you can imagine. Trash barrels, etc. But you do what you gotta do.
Yeah. Hey, if you want to test your shooting skills too, you gotta change the rim.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
And all right, so we know you're the head coach over there at Durfee for the girls basketball team. What brought you over to Durfee, and has that changed your thoughts in the game at all?
Actually, I got to shout out Rob Delarue. I know Meg, I'm not sure if you do, Sam, but former Bristol coach. I coached at Bristol College. That was the first guy, after years of building AAU programs, putting in my own money, fundraising, standing on, in parking lots trying to raise funds and build an AAU program. Rob Delarue was the first guy that, hired me at Bristol. First year we weren't that great. Next year we won a state championship. And then from there I left Massasoit. I left and went to the Massasoit men. While I was at the Massasoit men, I actually coached Bourne High School girls at the same time. So I was coaching college men and high school girls at the same time. Only person in the state doing that. Took a year off after I left Bourne and Massasoit. And I saw the Durfee job posted. And there was a little apprehension because that was my daughter's senior year of high school. And I recognized really quickly I was going to have to coach against my own kid. and I really wanted to watch her senior year. But, you know, admittedly, my daughter's more of a soccer kid. So I got to see the entire soccer season before I was even hired at Durfee. I got hired at Durfee very late. I got hired maybe 21 days before tryouts even started. So, you know, I saw the job. I met with Mr. Buston and one interview, banged it out. And he says it's one of the longest interviews of his career because I just talked basketball. I talked the guy's ear off. We were there about 2.5 hours. Then he called me, asked me. I remember where I was when he said, "You want the job?" I said, "Absolutely." Was there the next day.
I remember covering that game against your daughter. You guys still trash talk how that game went?
No, she's retired from basketball. She's a soccer kid. She's at Howard University now. So, but I mean, every now and then, she'll, you know, if I send a picture out or something, she'll say, "Yeah, that's the game that we beat you guys." I'm like, yeah.
How do you view the local basketball? Because I know you travel a lot. And you're very into, you know, what's going on. You're always going, you know, you said in Spain, you're always going to the court. You're always looking to pick up games. How would you view the local basketball talent versus in the area, and how it is versus the other areas?
Okay, that's something, you know, it's close to me. At being, you know, I'm a guy that dives in. So when I'm hired at Fall River, when I'm hired at Durfee High School, I am now Fall River. That is me. I represent Fall River basketball, boys side, girls side. It doesn't matter to me. Basketball is just basketball. Girls basketball, boys basketball. I honestly think in the purest form, girls basketball is actually better than boys because boys can make up for a lot of mistakes athletically that girls just can't. They have to be able to do certain things right in order to be really good. That's why I always list Diana Taurasi as the third best basketball player I've ever seen. Jordan, Bird, Diana Taurasi, in my opinion. I don't care if anyone agrees with me. But so what I see in the area specific to Fall River is I see a struggle with the lack of urgency with the game. You know, boys side and girls side. I don't see a large investment. Like, for example, if you travel and you'll see large pickup games or events going on, you don't see too many kids representing Fall River. You see Brockton kids, you see Boston kids, Cape Cod kids, Taunton, New Bedford. And it seems to skip Fall River. Maybe that's just a lack of awareness, or, you know, a lack of wanting to test your skills against players from other communities, because it's really easy to be comfortable in your community and be, hey, I'm the best girl player, I'm the best guard, I'm the best big, I'm the best male guard. But, you know, there's animals in other cities too. And I always felt, and this is just my generation, we wanted to play against the best. My grandmother would drive me, hey, you want to go play in Chinatown? Go play in Chinatown. You want to go play out in Mansfield, Foxborough? Go. We went everywhere. You want to go play in the city? You want to go to New York? Like, you want to, yeah. And that's how you become a better player. I'm not sure. After 2 years, this will be my third season. I'm not sure initially where the disconnect is, but I used to take it more personal as like, oh, maybe it's me, but it's not me. It's a culture thing. Like, you know, Fall River is a deep-rooted basketball culture. It has a deep-rooted basketball culture. That hasn't necessarily existed in a little while. I think it, you know, some people will see it as Brockton has a City of Champions mentality. New Bedford has, you know, let's get after it mentality. And I don't always feel that Fall River will compete or will test itself against other towns, like other cities. And from what I think, to be great, you have to go play in other cities. You have to play against the best of the best. You might get crossed up. You might fall. Remember, in my generation too, somebody crossed somebody up and they fell. They just got up and played D. Now everybody reacts. You see the parents run on the court. But you can't be afraid of that. You can't be afraid of getting dunked on. You get dunked on, next player. You try to dunk on someone. I don't always see that willingness to compete. And I'm not saying it's not there. I just don't see it on the level that I see it at other places. That's just real. It's the truth.
Real quick, about the going to different communities to play to get better. That's what happened. My stepdad, when I played AAU, he'd bring me over to Johnston, Rhode Island, East Providence, Warwick, because over here you don't see that kind of competition. Over in those sorts of areas, you see people competing against each other. Like over here, it's just like, all right, let's just play for fun. It doesn't really matter. Like play with our friends. They cannot be good, but I'm better than them, so I'll play against them. You don't want to do that. You always want to play against someone better than you, because then you get better as they go.
You know, people talk about you're giving gifts. No, you got to work at this. It takes work. All the work that I put in when I was you guys' age is why I can still compete against people that are you guys' age right now. It's just the work I did when I was a kid. It's a decision I had to make. It wasn't, hey, I want to play Nintendo. I want to eat pizza with my friends. I want to hang out at McDonald's. It was, no, I want to be good at this. To go to the NBA? No, not necessarily. To be able to do this now and always be a consideration when I show up. There are a few players that do. There are a few. I'm not going to name the names, but there are a few players that do. But on a whole, and I think you and I, Megan, have talked about this, last year with the state of high school basketball, and maybe only one or two teams even qualifying for the state tournament. These other teams, and these other even towns are getting after it in the game of basketball. And I just feel like if you want to be good as a whole, the community has to come together. It's got to be done together. That's another thing. Come together and invest in the game, and then branch out and take these kids and testing their skills everywhere. One more thing before we move on. Fall River has talent. The talent doesn't always necessarily stick together. I think through agendas, they branch out. This kid will go here. This kid will go here. But the talent is there. Fall River could literally south of the city of Boston become the powerhouse city.
One thing I want to ask is, I know you're out there, part of the protest, part of the movement, what's going on, Black Lives Matter. How do you feel about the NFL and NBA, the social messages on the shirt, restricting some things, and with them trying to do it? How do you feel about the whole thing?
I feel that, the players should be able to voice their opinion. Some people say, leave politics out of sports, leave religion out of sport, shut up and dribble, But Muhammad Ali was a very loved guy for his opinions. You know what I mean? That's why they call him the greatest. They don't call him the greatest. Well, maybe they do call him the greatest because of boxing. I mean, he got like a bunch of losses. It's things beyond that elevated Muhammad Ali. So these guys, I feel like they should be able to say, within reason, the things they want to say. To be honest, I don't really have, there's been nothing on the back of a jersey that I totally disagreed with. And I don't think people should get up in arms if someone chooses not to say anything. That's your choice. Isn't that America? Like, some of that is the reason why we're having these problems, because no one's allowed to have their opinions or to react, the way that they want to do it individually, But for the most part, I mean, I like it. I can't say there's something that I would like to have seen that I'm not seeing. You know what I mean? Like, I can't point out like, oh, I wish this guy would have said this. But it's really interesting. It's cool, both leagues, to be able to, allow this. I mean, it's far overdue. We could have a whole, segment about how long overdue this is. I enjoy it. At Durfee, we won't be doing something similar, but we're going to have, a council and a panel where we're going to talk about social awareness and things of that nature too. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, how do you guys feel about it?
I feel like it's needed, and I'm actually proud of NBA. It didn't surprise me because the NBA kind of been always kind of a step ahead. It seems like, especially with Adam Silver. NFL surprised me with it. I didn't think the NFL would do it. I feel like I don't think it's going to solve it. I don't think it's going to solve, but it's a nice gesture. It's a nice way to get players, to use their platform to speak on it like they've been wanting to. Because a lot of players are like, we're skeptical about going back to sports because they might become a distraction, of what's really going on. So the fact that they still let them, talk about it, because this is a very important issue that we need to talk about. The fact that they're still able to talk about it and bring awareness to it, I think is important. I agree that, you have to have some restrictions. Like, I know there was like a post one player did, maybe something that would have been inappropriate. But as far as like, there's some things I feel like it makes no sense to me. Like the no names, I don't really get the no name thing. Like, why Jimmy Butler couldn't do no name? I don't really see a big deal with that. I feel like some restrictions, like if it's inappropriate, but as far as they should be able to put anything they want as long as it's not inappropriate.
I agree. The NBA, Adam Silver's doing a phenomenal job during all this right now. allowing them to speak their mind, do whatever, do the kneeling and such. He's allowing that, which is good. And the NFL still needs to get up to par with that, because I'm not a fan of Roger Goodell, not a big on him, but he needs to allow that to happen without punishments. Like, a lot of these NFL owners are saying, like, oh, if you kneel, you're not going to be playing and such, or taking hits away, penalties, but that shouldn't be a thing. Like he said, this is America. You have the freedom of speech. You should be able to say whatever you want without getting penalized by that. And then the Oklahoma City Thunder was the lawyering company that said they're going to take their money away if they keep kneeling. Like, that's just insane. The threats like that should not be happening. Go to Seattle, they'll allow it. I don't know if you saw the Jonathan Isaac thing where everyone was kneeling and he was standing up.
Yes.
How do you feel about him saying that when he said the kneeling doesn't really do much for Black Lives Matter, time to do real actions?
So like I said, I don't want to be critical of one person's agenda. One way, his opinion. You know what I mean? That's opinion. Well, first of all, let me add this. I don't believe that everybody's entitled to an opinion. That cliche. I don't live by cliches. If you're having an uninformed opinion and you just clearly don't know what you're talking about, you're not entitled to have the conversation.
Exactly.
But I believe that Jonathan is he's a well-informed guy, and if that's how he feels, that's how he feels. I didn't have a necessary problem with it, just because he's, didn't just about everybody else kneel but Jonathan?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he also could be helping the cause by taking a stand, by being one that doesn't kneel. And that could actually bring more focus to the agenda than if everybody just kneels, and then you just got a whole bunch of people kneeling. You know what I mean? The man made a choice. He did a decent job of explaining why he made that choice, and then you got to take that at face value, and that's that.
So, Marcel, I'm interested to see who you have for NBA Finals prediction. Who you have going?
I don't want to sound like a homer, but I think it's going to be the Celtics and Clippers. Although I do think the Clippers are going to win the championship. I like the Celtics, like I said earlier. I like the way they play basketball. I just feel like they play it as pure as, the 08 team. They don't defend like the 08 Celtics did, but they get after it. I like the squad. And the Clippers, they're ridiculous 1 through probably 8, right? Like they've got 8 top tier guys that can just go. But it's not one of those teams. It's like a boat. Like, it's not, super talented. You got a bunch of superstars. You got guys who, Bill Belichick, do their job. And then you got the top tier guys who are, obviously superstars that go. And I think it would just be interesting to see that dynamic, Boston, LA, but it's not the Lakers, I know a lot of people want the Lakers to win a championship. They want LeBron to get closer to Jordan. But I think I got the Celtics. I got Celtics, Clippers, and the Clippers in 6 probably.
All right. So I want to thank you viewers for coming on today. Make sure you click that subscribe button. Leave comments or anything you want, any debates or any topics that you felt that you want us to talk about in the future. And also, if you have any comments about our debates today, let us know. Thank you for tuning in. Marcel, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you as well.
You can find all our social media links in the bio.
All right. We'll see you guys.